Good morning, students and parents. Look, this is not going to be too formal, but I have been thinking that from time to time it would probably be useful, in addition to sending out information via Compass and Facebook and our website and so on, if we could just share a little bit of information in this way. So I just want to take a few minutes of your time to share a little bit of information that I hope is helpful to you. The first thing I'd like to do probably is to thank our students in particular for just how flexible and accommodating and understanding they've been over the last couple of weeks as we've moved into online learning. I think it's been a really good transition for most of our students. I think we've had a few little hiccups along the way, and I want to refer to those as I go over the next few minutes. I am going to pass my eyes down every now and then just down to my notes to make sure that I don't miss anything that's really critical. So the first thing that I'd like to emphasise again is just how important it is that students are communicating really well with teachers, that you are letting teachers know when you come across issues, and whether that's via email, a phone message, or however you like to communicate that. But it's really important that teachers get that feedback. I think students have done pretty well managing their time, but there's probably a little more that some students could do to make sure that they're on top of everything. It's important that our students check their communication channels really regularly. It's really important now that you're checking your email. If you're a student who hasn't been in the habit of checking your email, your Bendigo senior email regularly, you really need to be doing that now. You need to be looking at your Compass lesson plans. I know we've had some students who have said, look, there's nothing in my Google Classroom. It'll be there, quite possibly back in Compass. So make sure that you start each time by looking at what you can see in Compass. The lesson plan will be there, and there'll probably be a link off to the Google Classroom. So if you're looking for information, make sure that you hunt around. Make sure you follow instructions, please. Look, teachers do a lot of talking in classrooms, and I think teachers are really accustomed to explaining things as they go. In this mode of learning, teachers really have to make sure that everything's very clear and explicit, and that students understand exactly what they have to do. But teachers are still learning sometimes to get that information up, but it does help if students are making sure that they really read very thoroughly what teachers are actually asking them to do. It's just so critical. Teachers are receiving lots of feedback, I think, via email and messages from students, but it's a little frustrating if you're a teacher and you've given some instructions and some advice and students haven't checked that. So students, please make sure that you're checking really regularly. I think in this environment, there's a really heightened sense among students who are doing a VCE Unit 3 and 4 subject about what these changes mean for them. So I just want to reassure you that obviously this is affecting everybody across the state, but there are also a range of other things that are underway, and some of which you might have picked up, that hopefully will make this more manageable for students. So the first of those, if you haven't picked it up already, is that this semester has been extended out to the end of term. So usually we would finish our first semester, so Unit 3 studies, for example, for Year 12 students, we'd usually finish those around about the middle of June. What will happen now is that the Unit 1 studies and Unit 3 studies will push out until the end of term. So that's going to give teachers and students a couple of extra weeks to try and make things a little more manageable. The other thing we know is that the VCAA, so the Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority, which sets our study designs and our assessment, is that we know that they're doing some work to look at what Unit 4 studies look like. So it's quite possible that over the next couple of weeks we may get confirmation that some components will come out of Unit 4 studies for VCE students to again make that more manageable. Students will already know that exams will be occurring, end of year exams this year will be occurring in December rather than commencing at the very end of October and running through to the middle of November. So the fact that the exams are basically going to be a month later means that there is more time for teachers to work with students in term 4. So we'd expect all of our timelines will be adjusted. So instead of breaking for a short study period before the exams around the 23rd, 24th, 25th of October, that's going to be a month later. So there's an extra month of study basically in Unit 4 as well. So hopefully that's reassuring for students. For VCAL students, there's already a lot of flexibility in your assessment, but your teachers will be working on what that looks like for you, and you should be confident that you'll get through the year, provided you put in the effort and do what your teachers are asking. Vet subjects are a little bit more challenging in some ways, and I know that we've got a really significant proportion of our students who undertake a vet study. Vet is controlled at a national level rather than just at a state level. And so industry has a strong hand in training packages, and it's more difficult to make changes in vet. So I know that there's some work underway there. Please be listening and be watching. The thing that students will be most concerned about and that we're most concerned about is what do the practical activities look like if you're undertaking a vet subject. So if you're doing a trade subject, if you're doing allied health, what does your placement look like, your practical component? Well, we know that we have got advice that we can run some practical activities, groups of up to 10 students or around 10, maintaining social distancing, that students will be able to come on site for those activities. And that will certainly apply in some of our vet subjects. So we've already asked our teachers to look at what that might look like. But it could equally apply in other areas like some of the arts, perhaps science experiments. It'll certainly apply in some of the performing arts like drama and perhaps even things like music and theatre studies as well. So if you're a student and you're studying a practical subject, particularly or including a folio-based subject, just please keep your eye on the advice coming out from your teachers about whether or not there might be changes or there might be an opportunity through this term for you to come back in. With the extra time that we've got, we'd hope that we can catch up, particularly at the start of term 3, on anything that students might miss during this term or not or do out of sequence. So please be watching and please be aware of that. Everybody wants to know when schools are going to return, and I think that, well, obviously I would like to know as well. The best advice we have at the moment is that it will begin at the beginning of term 3, but that's all dependent upon health advice, and that's in turn dependent upon what's happening with the number of COVID-19 cases out there in our community. So I think we probably have to say that Victoria was tracking reasonably well at the moment. If that continues, then I think we'll be reasonably confident that we'll begin again at the start of term 3. But it could be possible that there's a staged return as well. So again, we'll just watch that space. We plan for the moment that all term 2 will be what we're seeing at the moment. And I think we've made a really good start, but it's still early days and there's still a long way to go. Ironically, even though I think Year 12 students are probably feeling this more acutely, you're also the students who are best able to manage this. And if you're a student, and we have spoken to all of our students or tried to contact all of our students over the last week, if you're a student and you've got younger brothers or sisters at home, even primary school age, you'll know that this is sometimes even more challenging for them. So as Year 11 and 12 students, you're mature enough, you've got a strong enough sense of responsibility, and your teachers are providing you with the work to be able to progress reasonably well in this mode of learning. And I think, I know some of the students that I've spoken to over the last few days have been talking about the fact that they can get this done, that it provides them with some flexibility as long as they've got clear instruction, and that's what I hope our teachers are providing, that they can progress really well. Just a couple of final things to finish on for students. It's really important that you get out of the house. Please don't stay bound to the house. Get outside at least 2 or 3 times a day. Go for a walk, go for a bike ride. Get out in the backyard, do some exercise, do something, because I think that's important for your own physical and mental well-being, as well as it supports your study, I think, very strongly. And please maintain good and regular patterns of sleep. I've heard a couple of really interesting comments from teachers over the last few days as they've contacted students getting way out of routine with sleeping and getting up late in the morning, whereas they'd normally be here. So please, regular patterns of study, regular patterns of sleep. If your sleep gets out of whack, then that is not going to be very good for your study at all. I think we're also aware that this is impacting on families in a whole range of ways, and we feel in particular for those families where we have parents who are trying to work from home and also support students, and we know how challenging that can be. So our thoughts are with you. We're also with all of those families where we know that that people have lost jobs, and we've actually got students as well, of course, who have lost part-time work. We know that things are going to return to something more like normal at some stage, hopefully in the next few months, but it's going to be a time when, for a period of time into the future, our economy clearly is going to turn south a little bit. Employment is going to dry up, it's going to be harder to find, and if there's any message at all for students to take out of that, it should be that your education is actually more important now than ever, and this really is the time to make sure that you're not falling behind and that you're doing everything you can to succeed to the very best of your ability. I'd expect that we might do one of these every week or two, depending upon what feedback we get from students and questions that come in from students and parents and suggestions from staff. So I hope that you found some of this useful, and I'll be back in touch with you again soon. Thanks everyone.